for the final campfire chat today at this Roadshow episode 5, we are going to speak to a company that is probably the most community-focused brand that I know and had the most spectacular IPO last year. So please welcome Parin Mehta, Regional Director, APAC for Airbnb. Parin, how are you?
Hi, Hoon. I'm doing great. I'm freshly vaccinated as of this afternoon, so feeling really good.
Well, you look really fresh.
Thank you.
And I like, what Pete was showing us, the correlation between vaccination and then, travel trends. And I hope that we are going to see the similar trends play out in at least Singapore and other parts of Asia as, vaccination rolls out. So let's go to you now, Parin. In February, you took on new responsibilities from overseeing experiences to now having oversight of homes as well. So what's been the biggest lesson for you in taking on this additional scope of rooms in this fragmented region?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not really a new learning, but something I've definitely been reminded of is just the importance of really listening and asking questions. And I mean that both externally with our community and stakeholders, but also internally with our team. So what we've learned on the guest side is people are just becoming less tethered and they want more flexibility. And there's a blurring really of the lines between travel, living and working. So that's one thing we've learned. And on the host side, we expect a travel rebound like anything we've seen before. And so we want to make it as really easy as possible for anyone who wants to become a host to become a host. And then on the team side, it's really just around asking good questions so that our teams on the ground can really work with the hosts in each country and clearly articulate the reality of what's going on at any given moment.
Right. So getting ready to kind of really tap the demand when it comes and getting ready to make sure that the supply kind of meets that demand. So, most travel companies have had to go back to core. I mean, in the previous interview with eTravelI, people are just having to focus on what it is they do best, right? And stick what they know. And Airbnb had to refocus on its core business, which was home rentals, and then kind of streamline the ancillary offerings, including the experiences and traditional hotel and luxury property listings, right? So is experiences taking a backseat in Asia currently?
No, far from it. One of the things we really believe about the recovery is that quality and human hosts are just going to become even more critical. And so one way we're thinking about this is the opportunity is not just accommodation, it's actually living on Airbnb. And so in the short term, what we've done with experiences is we've pivoted to an online model when needed. And so if you go to the homepage today, you'll see some great Olympics-related experiences that you can take online. But over the long term, as people come back to certain corridors, we think that combination of a human-hosted stay and experience will be really what the guests want, and it's a great opportunity for the hosts. So part of this is all building up to just showcasing authentic local culture again when various corridors reopen.
Right. So there's a focus right now on virtual experiences for sure, which I've seen on your site, right? Whether it's cooking classes or theater, so it's a lot of virtual experiences. Now, I mean, you had a really good first quarter bookings and revenues, according to the results that I was reading, and gross bookings jumped 52% to 10.29 billion in the quarter. And I quote a press statement at that time where they said, for guests aged 60 and above in the U.S. who were among the first groups to benefit from vaccine rollouts, as you have, searches on your platform for summer travel increased by more than 60% between February and March 2021. So do you anticipate that similar pent-up demand happening in Asia in the seniors bracket or the millennials? Which market are you going for?
Can I say both? I mean, we think it's going to be really every segment. And we're seeing a really couple of clear things already emerge. So on the guest side, I mentioned less tethered and more flexible and this blurring of the lines. And we're seeing a growth in long-term stays as well. So people really living on Airbnb in different locations as they can. And then on the host side, we're just trying to make it as easy as possible for people to become hosts and really take advantage of this travel surge. So just, a couple of stats, just to give some data points. What we've seen during COVID is obviously domestic and nearby travel, like everyone else has, and really the growth in these rural destinations away from urban markets. Just to give a couple of examples, in Korea, we saw nearby travel be 75% of nights booked in H1, and we're seeing Jeju become one of the top summer destinations for Korea. And in Australia, we're partnering with a lot of farms and farm stays to help them generate extra income and really give urban dwellers something to enjoy in rural areas. And as we'll see, as vaccine rollouts really increase across the region, I think we'll see more interesting things ahead.
Yeah, but I'm sure that you've seen contraction in Australia right now with what they're going through, and with the new outbreaks, right? So the thing is, you're seeing different sort of pockets, some just starting up and then shut down, right? Can you share like three customer insights that will be useful for our audience and how they can plan their offerings for the customer to return?
Yeah, sure. So on the guest side, we're really seeing people valuing flexibility and being less tethered. And so we've launched the flexible cancellation policy filter, which allows free cancellation until 24 hours before check-in. And also guests can view their host cancellation policy really clearly prior to booking, so that allows maximum flexibility. And then on the host side, hosts are also recognizing the desires of the guests. And so 2/3 of our active listings globally offer a moderate or flexible cancellation policy. And also hosts are required to adhere to our expert-backed 5-step enhanced cleaning protocol. And so when you take all this together, we really just want to help the hosts get prepared and their communities to get prepared to make the most of this travel rebound when it comes in each corridor.
Right. So clearly, the ability to get full refund is really, really important, cancellation. And I mean, I was reading an article in Focus Wire where you've basically introduced more than 100 updates to your platform, to capture the demand as well as increase pool and support. So a lot of work has been going behind the scenes really to prepare for this recovery. Now, looking to the future, can you cite like one top trend that you're seeing from global markets where travel has recovered? Are you seeing any demand for Phuket, and for Thailand destinations, for example, which have reopened?
Yeah, I'll touch on the global trends first. We're seeing domestic nearby stays become really popular. Obviously, as certain corridors open, those become popular. But flexibility really is the thing that we're seeing most on the guest side. I'm also seeing a desire for unique hosted experiences, both on the accommodation side and on the experiences side. And then on experiences, we're seeing that there is this innate human desire to travel that we've talked about many times this evening. And so people are really bracing experiences as corridors open because they want to try that sense of unique human-hosted hospitality that they've been missing for the last 18 months.
Right. So really, unique experiences. Clearly, sustainability is another big topic right now, which we've been talking about today, the whole day. And OTAs are adding sustainability criteria to their product search, right? So what is your approach when it comes to sustainability?
Yeah, so, we've been thinking about this a lot. The rebound, it's just going to be a great opportunity for all of us in the industry to really pause and reflect and think about how we can do better to harness the power of travel to help more communities. And so we're thinking about this in two areas. One is really just helping local cultures to showcase to the world more authentically than maybe in the past. And so we're really working with a lot of communities to do that. A couple of examples, I mentioned the farming and farm stays examples in Australia. In Thailand, we've been working with the Community Development Department. And in Singapore, we have an MOU with the Singapore Tourism Board around experiences. And probably later in the year, we'll be working with the Korean Tourism Organization, again, around opening up Korean experiences to the world. And then secondly, it's really around economic empowerment as economies start to recover and tourism based in the community could be a really powerful lever. So we recently did a survey with Filipino hosts where 57% of them said that the income that they've earned through hosting has helped them to stay in their homes over recent past. So those are the two big trends that we're really excited about.
Right. In the first conversation that we had with Juliet Kinsman, the sustainability editor for Condé Nast Travel, there was concern raised that, this pandemic is going to wipe out a lot of small businesses, right? And those are the businesses that people actually want to travel to experience. And so it is vital that companies like yourself with the valuations that you have, be able to support the small communities on the ground. I mean, that is a very critical element in our recovery. So let's talk about, how crisis, what I found with this crisis is that it really brings people together, right? Because there's it brings communities together. And on your website, I read there are lots of stories of how you have brought certain communities together to overcome certain crises. So can you share one story in Asia that kind of touched you particularly?
Yes, I mean, aside from COVID, there's also been numerous natural disasters. And so we've seen via Airbnb.org, which is our new independent nonprofit that we launched not too long ago, just great examples of work being done to provide temporary accommodation, often free, for people during natural disasters. And so, there's been recent flooding in New South Wales. Of course, there's been bushfires in Australia. And so that's where we've seen just hospitality from hosts come onto the platform to really help people at time of need.
Right. I'm just checking if there are questions coming in. The other thing that I guess I am curious about is, companies, what we found during this pandemic was that companies that had local experiences did better than OTAs that had the cross-border flights, right? Because especially in Asia. And so how do you think this period will influence the evolution of experience providers such as yourself? I mean, you've gone like fully virtual, but the other experience providers have done and dug deep into providing real sort of physical local experiences. How do you think this period will influence the evolution of experience providers?
Yeah, we think there'll be room for both. I think even when people are able to travel fully and unbridled and across various corridors, we still think there's room for an online experience. Perhaps before someone takes their trip, they could use an online experience to maybe research the place that they're going to or speak to some locals to help plan their trip. And then in destination, they can actually take the in real life experience. And then even after the trip, to reminisce with their friends and family, they could maybe take an online experience again. So we could see this being part of a consumer life cycle to really pre, during, and post enjoy that trip and reminisce about it.
And a hybrid experience like what we're having now. Can I ask you, I'm curious, what was the best-selling online experience? Can you answer that? What is the best-selling online experience that you've had?
Really varies from time to time, but the one I'd call out at the moment is the Olympic experiences, where we've got real Olympians who are hosting experiences and showcasing some of their journey to get to the Olympics. So if anyone is looking for something great to do, I would really recommend them. You can find them on the homepage today.
Yeah, I mean, I find that amazing that, the opening ceremony, I watched it, and I'm sure a lot of us, who stuck at home watched it, and we can't believe that it's happening at this time. So that's an amazing moment of collective joy for the universe. So now I'm going to end with rapid fire. Your personal passion is coaching. I see you, giving a lot of coaching. So what is the one question you think that executives should be asking themselves at this time?
Yeah, I think probably one of the big learnings for all of us in the industry is really focusing on what we can control. I think it's a really important mental exercise for us all to do. And then secondly, just thinking about what do we want that future to look like, because we've got a really good opportunity to maybe do things differently. And so taking a view of some point in the future and then working backwards from that, I think is a really useful and healthy exercise for people to do.
So what's the one thing that I can control, and what's the future I want to create for myself? Is that right? Is that the question that I should be asking myself?
I think it is, and I think you're doing a great job. You've kept this community connected throughout the pandemic, and just having a hybrid event when many other people would frankly not bother. I think you're already living these values, which is great to see.
Thank you. So when I can travel, what's the one Airbnb home that you think I should experience?
Yeah, so our company mission is all around belonging, and that's traditionally meant between host and guest. But I think what's going to become as important is that connection between guests and guests, particularly when people have been disconnected. And so for me, it's less about a specific home, but just personally somewhere where you can take maybe friends, family, loved one, and have an experience together and reconnect, I think is really important. And I would recommend some of the very unique listings that we have around the world.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting when you say guests and guests, because that ties me back to what Lauren Quinsley said in the second panel, from Asian Trails, where he said that the bookings he's seeing were kind of coming in groups of 3 and 4, versus, the groups of 2, so groups kind of 3 and 4 people traveling together. We had Ma talking about solo female travelers, where people really do want to get together and travel. So it seems to be a very common thread through this crisis. So Parin, thank you so much for being with us. I'm sorry that you can't be with us on stage, but we will see you physically now that you're freshly vaccinated at the next event. Thank you, Parin.
October.
All right,
I'll see you.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.